mosquitoes and tigers. Now, you sit down and make yourself comfortable. No one to disturb you. You'll hear the train easy enough." He went out, letting in a shiver of icy air. Seren pulled off her gloves and found her fingers were blue and numb. She dragged the heavy bench closer to the coals and sat on it, tucking her feet up and pulling her coat and shawl tighter round her. This was so much better. Warmth began to thaw out her nose and ears and fingers. It was painful, but worth it. She yawned, wishing she could go to sleep, but she had to be careful not to miss the train. The fire crackled and she watched it. Of course, what she had told him about India was true. She had lived there once, but only as a tiny baby. She couldn't remember anything about it at all, really, except a sort of vagueness of heat and the fierce blue glare of the sky, and someone leaning over her and kissing her. She shrugged it away. Her parents had both died out there, and she had been brought home on the ship and had lived for 12 years at the orphanage of St. Mary's. Even now she couldn't believe she was out of that place. Great-aunt Grace had found her and taken her away, but only for 6 months, because now Aunt Grace was dead too. The old woman had been bedridden, living in lonely splendour at the top of a dull old house near London, and Seren had hardly seen her. She had stayed in the kitchen mostly, with Martha, the maid, and the white cat Samuel. She was already missing them. Maybe there would be a cat at Plas-y-Fran. In her pocket, the letter crackled. She took it out and moved nearer the lamp to read it again. "Dear Seren, here is your railway ticket. As I told you at your aunt's funeral, your father's oldest friend, Captain Arthur Jones, has offered to take you in. Captain Jones is your godfather. It seems strange you have never met him. He has a wife, Lady Maya, and one son called Tomos, and his house is in Wales. It is a grand old place called Plas-y-Fran. The train will take you to Treville, the nearest station, where I'm sure someone will come to meet you. I hope you will be happy living there. Yours, most sincerely, G.R. Freeman, Solicitor at Law, Staple Inn, London." Seren crumpled it up thoughtfully. A grand house. She hugged her knees and dreamed. There would certainly be a hot bath and a huge bedroom with curtains round the bed. There would be maids and footmen and glittering chandeliers and delicious cakes. New clothes, for sure. And Captain Jones would be a tall, handsome man with a moustache, and Lady Maya would be pretty. And they would be waiting anxiously on the doorstep to meet her. And there was a boy in the house, Master Tomos. She imagined him with dark hair and a clever, cheerful face, holding out his hand and saying, "Hello, Seren. It's so great you're here." It seemed too good to be true. But maybe it was. Maybe this Tomos was some spoiled little brat who would resent her coming, and they would argue and he would pull her hair. Well, let him try. She yawned again. The fire crackled, so quiet and warm that she closed her eyes. For a moment, everything was peaceful. Then somebody coughed. It was a soft sound, the very smallest sound, but it made her snap her eyes open in alarm. She stared across the table and sat bolt upright in shock. There was a man in the room. He was leaning back in the shadowy corner of the bench opposite, right back in the dark, so she could barely see him. A very tall, thin man with clothes as black as midnight. He wore a hat that hid his eyes, though she knew he was looking at her. On his lap was a large parcel, wrapped in newspaper and tied with string. He held it tight with both hands. His fingers were long and spindly, and on one was a ring, its stone a green glimmer of emerald. Seren sat frozen in complete shock. Where on earth had he come from? He couldn't have been here all the time. The room had been empty. The door had never opened, and even if she'd fallen asleep, it could only have been for a second. "Hello," the man said quietly.